Hello guys, welcome to my channel, and today I am explaining the movie Around the World in 80 Days, released in 2004. This movie got 5.9 out of 10 rating on IMDb and 32% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So do not wasting your time, let's begin. Movie starts with a Chinese man Lao Xing, whose character is played by Jackie Chan in this movie. He is robbed something precious and try to escape from the Bank of England, which is a very famous bank at that time. Trying to save from the police, he enters in one person's house whose name is Phileas Fogg. Lao Xing introduces himself to Phileas that my name is Passport 2, which is fake, and I will want to do a job as a servant in your house. Listening him, Fogg accepts Passport 2 is as servant. Here we see that Phileas Fogg is a scientist that trying to break the 50 meter per hour speed barrier, and however with the help of Lao, he is succeeding to do so. And to give the information about his succeed to other scientists, they had to the Royal Academy of Science. But here Fogg is insulted by other scientists on his experiment, particularly the bombastic Lord Kelvin, who believes that everything worth discovering has already been discovered, and there is no need for further progress because our country is a developed country. In this room, bank robbery that happened in Bank of England is also discussed, but in his blind rage, Fogg says that he is glad the bank was robbed because it is outdated and so much old, and says that the thief could be in China in little over a month. During this talk, Fogg places a bet with Lord Kelvin that it would be possible to travel around the world in 80 days. On this, Kelvin says that if you won this bet, you would become Minister of Royal Academy of Science in place of myself, and if not, you would tear down his lab and never invent anything again. Now scene shifts to Fogg's house, where Fogg mourns on his rash decision. But Passport 2 said that to bet on something he believed in made the bet in no way foolish. And listening it without losing a moment, they take a carriage and leave London. But during their journey, they firstly meet with Inspector Fix, who is a corrupt officer, and we saw that he was hired to stop them from traveling around the world by Lord Kelvin. Then they travel to Paris from London, where Passport 2 must evade minions sent by the murderous female soldier General Fang. And now we saw a talk between Lord Kelvin and Fang that she had given the Buddha to Lord Kelvin in exchange of military assistance in her enterprise to conquer Lao Xing's village. But now Kelvin wants Buddha back from the thief. And now scene back shifts in the Paris, where Passport 2 take Phillips to a convention with Thomas Edison, which is also a famous scientist. But Passport 2 leads him to an art school where Phileas meets Monique, who is very pretty. Realizing how busy his boss with Monique, Passport 2 fights with the minions using every material available, such as canvas, brushes, bucket of paint, etc. Meanwhile, Phileas and Monique discuss Monique's painting of impossible things, such as dogs playing poker, and moments later, Phileas sees a painting of a man with wings, and to make a machine that could allow man to fly, that was Phileas' dream. All of a sudden, Passport 2 returns and tells his boss that they are so late. Now from there, the two men, Phileas and Passport 2, accompanied by Monique, depart in a hot air balloon, and in it they then travel to Turkey, where they are greeted by Prince Happy. So they goes to the Happy Palace, where they were entertained for some hours in a swimming pool by Prince Happy, and we saw that here the Prince Happy having becomes infatuated with Monique and ordered her to stay as his seventh wife, while the men were ordered by Prince Happy to leave from there. The man leaves from there but blackmailed Prince Happy into releasing Monique, using a prized but apparently flimsy statue of the prince as a bargaining counter. The statue is a parody of Rodin's The Thinker, made to look like the prince. But the statue is ultimately destroyed by them, and watching this, the three travels escape from the palace very fastly. Now, hearing of all about Fogg's journey and of the theft of the Jade Buddha, Lord Kelvin becomes angry, and he is later contemptuous when he learns that Fogg has been involuntarily abetting a thief's escape. Using this as an excuse to delay Phileas, he and his helper ordered the British colonial authorities present in India to arrest both Phileas Fogg and his assistant that's fake name is Passport 2. Now in India, Passport 2 sees notice of the price on his head and warns his companion about it. and wearing as local women clothes, they evade the police from Agra. But here they are also attacked by the General Feng's agents. Using Inspector Fix and a sextant as a weapon, Phileas and Passport 2 defeat their assassinates. And after this they all goes to China. Here in China they all are guided by Passport 2 and leads his friend to his village. And after few minutes they reach the Passport 2's village. In his village they are happily greeted by peoples of his village. They all are spent several days here, but during which Phileas discovered that Passport 2's real name is Lao Xing, who is a local warrior. And on next morning attack was repeated by General Fang's militia on his village and they make them prisoner into hollow wooden boxes. Here Lao Xing challenges the arrogant young leader of the group that has seized him to a fight. Lao Xing at first fights alone and he is defeated. But after some time the 10 tigers, that a group of 10 persons including Lao Xing, which protect the village from the disaster and the troubles, they all fight hand to hand with Fang's militia and won the battle. And after this they all are centered around the Jade Buddha, which is reinserted in the temple. But Phileas is disappointed by Lao Xing's gag and more by the revelation that Monique has also known the truth of him for many weeks. Phileas now desires to continue alone because he is disappointed by his companion. He travels to San Francisco where he is tricked out of his money by a lady. He attempts to replenish his supply with the aid of beggar but fails. But after 3 days he is recognized by Lao Xing and Monique, who have come to find him. Now scene shifts in the desert where they found the Wright brothers and here they discuss about the flying machine. Taking a look at the plans, Phileas found them brilliant and suggested a few more changes in your plan is needed. Now from there, Lao Xing, Monique and Phileas' next stop was New York, where a massive crowd who had placed bets for or against Phileas winning greeted them and made it impossible for them to pass and reach their ship. But a policeman allowed them this is to be possible by taking them through a building which he called a shortcut. But here more minions awaited them, ready for one last face-off. A major battle between three friends and General Fang and her minions started in the workshop where the Statue of Liberty was made, with Lao Xing using his skills to stop his enemies and the other two using his luck. In the end, the three friends were victorious. Here it seemed that the minions had stalled them enough to make them lose their ship to England. Here Phileas felt like he had lost everything, but the other two said they might still make it if they caught the next ship, so they took the next ship. And here we saw that the old ship that was owned by a sailor who had lost both his nipples in an attack by a shark. Phileas told the captain they were not going fast enough, and after a lot of talking he managed to convince the captain to let him build a plane out of the old wood from the ship. In exchange of that he will provide a new ship and a surgery to give him new nipples. Using the change Wright brothers plan, Phileas built a machine that seemed to work. On it, Lao Xing is pedaling and Phileas is driving, and we saw that flying machine was working fine and soon they reached London. Then the machine begins to fall apart and they had a crash landing in front of the Royal Academy of Science. Watching this, Lord Kelvin sends police to stop them from making it to their actual destination, that is the top step of the Royal Academy of Science. But after few minutes the clock soon strike noon, which is the time Phileas started, and due to this Phileas lost the bet. Here Lord Kelvin proclaims himself the victor, but several people such as Monique, Fix and other ministers began attesting to Kelvin's unfair method and his bullying nature. However, in this process, Lord Kelvin insults the Queen Victoria, who is nearby listening in behind him. Watching Queen in front of him, Kelvin tries to run away but he is got caught by the police. Here Phileas is also lucky enough not to have lost the bet. He is one day early thanks to crossing the international date line, yet believed himself late because of an error on the part of Lao Xing. He ascends the stair of the academy and there kissed Monique in front of crowd because he won the bet. And watching this scene, movie ends. So guys, would you like this video or not? Please comment in comment section, and if you think that our work is appreciable, then like and share my video. And if you want to watch the complete movie, then I will provide movie downloading link on my another channel where you get movie downloading link. So at last, do not forget to subscribe our channel.